Hello guys, I'm Dimitris Delamitras from Stigmatized Productions. First of all, I apologize for my not so good English, but I will try to explain as best as I can. In this video, I will talk about grooves. I will explain and refer to the most common problems that arise when someone not enough experienced in drum programming tries to create a drum track and usually ends up with a shitty track. After this, I will talk about the usual solutions on that problem, and finally, I will talk about the focused grooves, stigmatized drummers' approach on this problem. The problem is that most of the musicians are not feeling comfortable with drum programming, and this list does not include only the bad musicians. A lot of good musicians are in this list also. The reason is very simple. Most of them are not drummers and don't even imagine how exactly drums are played. To create a decent drum track, you need to know how a drummer plays, so you can mimic tempos and breaks. But if you want to create a really pro and killer drum track, this knowledge is not enough. You have to know exactly every small detail on drumming, when we use right or left hand, a perfect knowledge of how strong or weak must be every hit on every drum piece, and you can achieve this using different velocities very often, especially during drum breaks. All that means that you have to be also at a pro level in MIDI editing in order to use all the right tools of your digital audio workstation. Here are some examples of basic grooves that are shitty and fake in the beginning because they use all same velocities, and then after velocity fix they sound okay. In the first example, we have a simple beat in 4/4 at 120 BPM, where all velocities are 127, and it sounds fake. The biggest problem in this beat is the hi-hat playing that sounds unnatural, and the drum break in the end where we play 16ths on snare and tom 2. It's a basic break that follows the sequence right left hands on snare and the same on tom 2. Imagine that the inexperienced user probably don't know about this right left sequence, and he uses D1 for the 16ths on snare, so he triggers only the left hand snare samples. The right hand snare samples are at D sharp 1 in Stigmatized Drummer, so for the right left sequence he should use D sharp 1 for the first hit, D1 for the second, D sharp 1 for the third, and D1 for the fourth. Same principles apply for the 16ths on tom 2, where right hand is C2 and left hand is B1. Have a listen and focus on hi-hat and drum break in the end to locate the problem. In the fixed version, we edited the velocities on hi-hat in a way that 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. hits are strong using 127 velocity for this example, and lowered 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. hits at about 115 velocity. For the 16th break on snare and tom 2, we need to have the strongest hit at first 16, so we used 127. Second and fourth are performed with the left hand, and they are usually weaker, so we used 190 and 114. Usually the fourth hit of a 16th sequence have to be weaker, that's why we used 114 velocity for this. Third hit is a little bit louder, so we used 121 velocity. Listen both shitty and fixed grooves in sequence to see the difference. Same way of adjusting velocities and right-left hand is used for the second example. The only difference is that instead of the hi-hat, we have ride bell in the second groove, here. Also kicks are full 127 velocity in the fake groove and adjusted in the fixed groove. So it's obvious that even though in basic and simple grooves, a proper use of velocities makes the difference. Imagine that in more complex stuff, you have to adjust not only velocities, but check in depth right and left hand playing, and many other details until you come to a high level of realism. How many of the musicians meet all these criteria? 1%? Maybe 2%? Not more than 5%. So what about the rest 95%? Here comes the most usual solution. There are some good drumming libraries out there that include a number of pre-made MIDI grooves ready for drag and drop in your MIDI track. Some of them advertise their 2, 3 or 5,000 grooves. So you imagine that you will have in your hands every possible groove. And guess what? When you have some riffs and try to find some grooves to match exactly those riffs, you never find the right grooves. And searching and spending all the afternoon because you believe that, what the hell, I have 5,000 grooves in my drumming software. Is it possible not to find the right grooves? And yes, it's possible, because simply, maybe they are not exist. Especially in the extreme styles of music like metal, extreme metal, black metal, death metal, thrash metal, metalcore, deathcore, hardcore, etc. The groove variations, depending on the guitar rhythm, are endless, because very often guitars are playing fast 16ths with their different variations on the right hand. So imagine for what number of variations we talk now. And because it's really impossible for a drumming software to include all these different grooves, usually they use what I call general grooves. From my perspective, I separate the grooves in two kinds: general grooves and focused grooves. General grooves are more basic and straight grooves, slow, medium or fast, with not many kicks in the groove. They can match easily with many right-hand guitar variations because they are straight and simple, so they will not throw you out during your performance. But they are not the grooves that a really good drummer would play for the corresponding guitar riffs. In the end, after a lot of search and not finding the groove that match exactly to your guitar riffs, you will choose some general grooves and you will record your guitars on them. From the other side, focused grooves are more complex grooves at slow, medium or fast tempos, with the kicks played exactly as the right hand of the guitarist. They are the perfect match for the corresponding guitar riff. Of course, they are much more difficult to be created and they need much more working time. Let me show you some examples of riffs played with general grooves in the first bars colored in green, here, and then exactly the same riffs copy-pasted, played with the corresponding focused grooves colored in red, here. So you will catch the difference. Conclusion. General grooves were okay because they are straight and easily glue at many riffs, but focus grooves were the perfect match. I decided to build Stigmatized Drummer's grooves in this idea, so I included a very big number of focus grooves in the groove browser, trying to cover all these different variations, beginning from simple to extreme complex grooves. Of course, it's impossible to cover everything, but the list of this kind of grooves is growing day by day, and a lot of updates will come very often to cover more. Stigmatized Drummer also include a big number of general grooves, and they will be updated very often too. Finally, another cool feature in the Grooves section of Stigmatized Drummer is the Song Styles in Metal folder. Some drumming libraries include this feature, but in a different way. They have some cool random grooves in style of intro, verse, bridge, chorus, etc., so you can build your drum track and play some random riffs based on these particular grooves. I prefer to work differently, and I made the song structure based 100% on special metal songs and created the grooves and all the drum playing to be exactly the same as the original song. So for example, if someone wants to play Demigod, he opens the Demigod folder and loads and throws in all the corresponding grooves, one after the other. Set the BPM at 270 or any speed you like, and you're ready. Believe me guys, it's very easy and very cool. I included 5 songs for this feature, but a lot of new songs are ready to be added in my next update, and it will be very soon. So I recommend you to check Stigmatized Drummer and its grooves. It will help you to focus on playing and writing music instead of searching and compromising your riffs. Thanks for watching, stay tuned for more cool stuff.